this video we are going to talk about eosinophilic esophagitis, also known as asthma of esophagus. What is the definition? First of all, before definition, we know a little bit about the pathophysiology. It is a disease which causes the hyperstimulation or sensitivity to certain food particles. Let's suppose this is the food taken by this man. When it comes into the esophagus, then some esophageal cells get sensitized by this food and they start an immune response and they stimulate helper T cells. The cells stimulates the immune system, which is the T cells, and then they release interleukins, growth factor beta. These two and other chemoreceptors further stimulates the mainly the mast cells and mainly the eosinophils and mast cells. The main cells playing role in the disease is the eosinophils, and mast cells also stimulated by the growth factor beta and interleukins. So there is the recruitment of mast cells in the esophageal cell wall, which starts an inflammatory response. And when this inflammation heals, it forms strictures, due to which esophagus become narrow. Lumen size of esophagus decreases. So this is the main pathophysiology of the disease. Now, by this scheme, we can easily remember the definition, which is it is a chronic immune mediated disorder of esophagus with esophageal symptoms, mainly dysphagia. When this process becomes chronic, there is a narrowing of the esophagus. There are strictures in the esophagus. There are rings or webs, due to which there is difficulty in the passage of the food. So mainly the patient's main complaint is dysphagia. Other esophageal symptoms can also be present, and increased esophageal eosinophils are present, which is gold standard criteria is equal to or more than 15 eosinophils per high power field. in the absence of other causes of eosinophilia. Now this is important that for the establishment of the diagnosis of eosinophilic esophagitis, not only these all phenomena are present, but and these histological findings should be present, but there is also an diagnosis of exclusion and other causes of eosinophilia of esophagus should be absent. They should be ruled out before. So we know certain other diseases that causes recruitment of eosinophils in the esophagus. The mainly is, first of all, is GERD, then achalasia, then in IBD, Crohn's disease, some collagen vascular diseases, also cause eosinophilic esophagitis. So these are the main DDs in which we find the eosinophils in the esophagus, but they are not this much high. If the eosinophils are present, these are the maybe the DDs, but if it is more than 15 eosinophils per high power field, then it is most likely the eosinophilic esophagitis, also called as, abbreviated as EOE. We should write it also here that eosinophilic esophagitis, we denote it with the abbreviation of EOE. Now coming towards the clinical symptoms of the disease. The clinical findings of eosinophilic esophagitis, these varies in different age groups. In children, it may present as heartburn, vomiting, and dysphagia. Children may also present with the failure to thrive. And in adults, dysphagia is most common symptom of the eosinophilic esophagitis, and they frequently has a history of food impaction in the esophagus. And symptoms also mimic the GERD. So there may be heartburn or chest pain which mimic the GERD. We have to rule out the GERD before establishing the diagnosis of eosinophilic esophagitis. And if we talk about the incidence in the sex, then it is more common in the male than the female. Now coming towards the investigations. First of all are lab investigation, which we perform different kinds of serology. Few patients have eosinophilia, that is increased eosinophils in the blood, and some may have increased IgE levels in their blood. Secondly, we perform radiological studies. In radiological study, we perform barium swallow test. And they may show small caliber esophagus, focal or long tapered strictures, and multiple concentric rings. So these are the findings we find on the barium swallow test. Thirdly, we can perform endoscopy. And endoscopy with biopsy is done, and it is required to establish the diagnosis, because we made the diagnosis on the histological examination of equal to or more than 15 eosinophils per high power field. And EGD findings are there may be edema of the esophagus, esophageal wall. There are multiple concentric rings, which also may call the trachealization of esophagus. Esophagus looks like a trachea. There is luminal narrowing. There are maybe exudates or white legs. There may be furrows or vertical lines, and strictures. And sometimes esophagus may be completely normal. So we cannot make the diagnosis on the basis of esophageal findings. We do take biopsy and do a histological examination of specimen, and on histology, if equal to or more than 15 eosinophils per high power field are present and other causes of esophageal symptoms are absent, then we made the diagnosis of eosinophilic esophagitis. And normal esophagus is present in up to 5% of the patients. Biopsies are taken, multiple biopsies are taken, that is 4 to 8, from both proximal and distal esophagus. This is important to differentiate the EOE from GERD, because suppose this is the esophagus and this is the stomach, initial part of the stomach. So as we know, the GERD is the reflect back of the acid into the esophagus. Acid reflects back into the esophagus and it causes erosions and inflammatory process in the mainly the distal part of the esophagus, distal esophagus. So in case of GERD, due to the immune mediated response of the inflammation, there is also increased eosinophils in the esophageal wall, but they mainly are increased in the number at the distal part of the esophagus. Here one thing is important to discuss here, that normally esophagus has no eosinophils. This is a unique thing about the esophagus, that it does not have any eosinophil in its wall, and their presence denotes any pathology being present in the esophagus. So in all other parts of the digestive system, eosinophils are present, but they are absent in the esophagus, and their presence indicates any pathology. So in the case of the GERD, eosinophils are increased in number in the distal part of the esophagus, and if we count them, then they are mainly between 7 to say 13 or 14. But if they are 15 or more than 15, then diagnosis is most probably is EOE. And in the case of the GERD, there is no increased eosinophils in proximal part of the esophagus. Okay, but in case of EOE, the first thing is the number of the esophagus, and the second point differentiating EOE from the GERD is, in this case, eosinophils are present increased quantity in both proximal and distal part of the esophagus. So because it occurs due to the passage of the food, which starts from the proximal esophagus up to the distal esophagus, so we find the eosinophils both in the proximal and distal part. So we take biopsy from both proximal part and distal part to make the diagnosis of EOE. We also do the skin testing for the evaluation of allergic food. So it is important to identify the positive factor. Now the management plan of the EOE. The goal of the therapy are improvement of the symptoms, reduction of the inflammation, prevention of the complications, that is esophageal strictures, and treatment of the esophageal strictures. First of all, we perform the non-pharmacological interventions. Non-pharmacological therapy consists of two types of food regulations. First of all is 6 foods elimination diets. SFED. In this, empirical elimination of suspected dietary allergens lead to clinical, endoscopic and histological improvements in 50 to 70% of the patients. And the most common allergic foods are dairy, it is mainly the cow's milk, eggs, wheat, soya. These are the main 4 drugs and four major food groups, and the two minor food groups are peanuts and shellfish. So dairy, eggs, wheat, soya, followed by the peanuts and shellfish. These are the allergenic foods considered in the eosinophilic esophagitis physiology, and these foods are eliminated from the diet of the patient, and then progressive reintroduction of each group is done. In this way, the trigger food is identified in up to 85% of the patients. So this is a very competent therapy if performed skillfully. Then the second food modality is elemental diet. It is a diet consisting of amino acid based formula. And the patients on elemental diets sometimes require a gastrostomy tube to achieve adequate caloric support. It is mainly given in the children with very severe disease. Now, pharmacological management of the EOE. The first line therapy in the management of EOE is PPI. Initially, the EOE and GERD are hard to distinguish on early stages. So first of all, we give the PPI on trial basis. They are given orally BD for 2 months, and they are followed by repeat endoscopy and mucosal biopsy. And up to 50% of the symptomatic patients with increased esophageal eosinophils have clinical and histological improvement with the PPI treatment, but it should be discontinued in patients with persistent symptoms and inflammation. So this is given for the 2 months BD, but if there is still persistent inflammation and symptoms, we discontinue the PPI. We give the PPI to rule out the GERD, to detect the PPI responsive eosinophilia, and for symptomatic relief. Eosinophilic esophagitis is of two types on the basis of PPI, on the basis of its response to PPI therapy. Number one is a PPI responsive eosinophilic esophagitis, and number two is non-responsive eosinophilic esophagitis. The second line therapy in EOE management includes steroids. First of all, we give topical steroids, and these lead to the symptom resolution in 70% of the patients. Either we give budesonide in sucralose suspension form, or we give fluticasone budesonide is given 1 mg, and fluticasone 440 to 880 mcg in powdered form is administered twice daily, that is BD, for 2 to 4 weeks. If it is discontinued completely, then relapse is common. So to prevent the relapse, we gave the maintenance therapy of 0.25 mg BD. And if the patient is still non-responding, then we switch to the systemic therapy with the systemic corticosteroids, and mainly for acute exacerbations. So this was all about the EOE. We discussed its definition, pathophysiology, its types, its clinical presentation, and its management. And let us discuss a scenario. A case is presented in which a 26-year-old male presents with intermittent dysphagia to solids since age 15. He has 2 past episodes of food impaction, there is no history of any heartburn, no acid regurgitation, and no past ingestion of any corrosive agent. As a workup, his EGD is done, and there is typical esophageal findings of EOE, that is narrow esophagus, multiple concentric grains, narrow esophagus, and we found narrow esophagus and trachelization of esophagus. Multiple biopsies are taken, and on histology of the specimen shows more than 15 eosinophils per high power feed. And at the time of endoscopy, dilatation of the esophagus with Savory dilator is done. and the patient complained of post-dilatation chest pain. So this is the typical scenario of EOE, that is eosinophilic esophagitis, and post-dilatation chest pain shows the complication of dilatation during the biopsy.